everyone, today I am painting the first miniature from Mansions of Madness. This is the second edition. Don't know what difference that makes to the miniatures. I've not seen the first edition, but this is the Hunting Horror. So this is a request, Patreon request from Shelley. So she's actually picked one this time. This was her choice, although she gave me free range. Words are hard. She said I could do any monster. So this is one I picked. I didn't really know what it looked like before, so it's kind of random for me. Now, Shelley absolutely loves preparing models, so I thought in this 8-minute video, I'll probably spend about 6 minutes showing you how to prep this guy and really make this content perfect for Shelley. That's not entirely true. I'll just quickly show you anyway. I don't often show this, and I do periodically like to remind you I do prepare some models. This had some pretty bad mold lines. This is a seam scraper that I picked up in the UK. They don't sell it anymore, so I can't link you to it, apologies, but it's called a seam scraper. It's just a triangular piece of sharp metal, and you run that along the seam, the mold line, and it just scrapes it off. It's fairly similar to using, you know, like a craft knife or a scalpel is what I was using before, but this is just, it's less sharp, so I can't really stab myself if I slip, but it's plenty sharp enough to clean up this model. So I'm just going to go around and take off all those seams, and then this has also got loads of gaps, so I'm going to carry on showing you how I was preparing the model. And this is liquid green stuff. This is by Citadel, and it's a sort of green putty-like material. And I'm just going to use this sort of spatula thing I have that a subscriber, Johnny085, made for me. You might have seen it in the past, but this is a new one, and it's got my old logo on. How cool was that? Anyway, if you've got any sort of spatula, or these might be available if anybody would like to get one off Thingiverse, I can let you know that. I'm just going to scoop some out, get some on the lid so it's more accessible, and then just use this spatula really to push it into that gap. And I'm sort of blending it, very crudely doing it here. I am going to improve this in a minute, but this is a pretty nice way of getting this green stuff out and poking it. It was quite a deep gap, so I really am trying to poke a bunch of the green stuff in there to let it set. This shrinks as it dries, so I'm just trying to save myself time here by getting a lot in the gap to begin with, and really just try and do this in one pass, which is quite difficult to do. This spatula is working pretty well. It's giving me the angles I want, but the green stuff is fairly dry. I think you're supposed to wet it a little bit before you start applying it, but I am getting there. And then once I've got the majority of that in place, I'm going to take a cheap brush, Quickdraw supply brush. The link is in the description below as always. About 10 cents these brushes, and they ship worldwide. And then this brush has got plenty of water on it, and I'm just going to start mixing that in with the green stuff a little bit and blending and smoothing that green stuff onto the rest of the model and just making it just blend in. It's seamless now. It's got rid of that gap, and I'm just making sure the transition is nice and smooth. And you can make this wetter and wetter and really just remove the excess that you want, and you end up with your model being sort of stained green, but all the detail is still there. You just want to make sure you leave it nice and sort of pooled in the gap, and the wetter you get it, the longer it is going to take to dry. But I did pretty good here, and really just got the edges wet to blend it in and make sure I didn't leave a nice raised lump. Instead of a gap, you just got a raised lump. Then I'm going to take my hobby holder, and I'm going to stick this to some poster putty and try to hold it in place. If anyone's got any tips for how to paint something like this was really difficult. Like, I can't paint some of the model now because it's got the poster putty in the way, but this is the best I could do. It's the only thing I could think. But do let me know in the comments if you've got a better suggestion. Let's just flash up that artwork and take a look again. I forgot to mention at the start, what even is that? That's like the lowest res picture I've ever seen. I can't even tell what's lighting or what's color. But I'm going to start with Sombre Grey. I'm going to try and do a very easy, simple paint job on this. I want to get through this model. It's detailed enough to make it look quite cool, but it's not the most detailed model I've ever seen. And sometimes it's nice to do a quick, nice paint job, right? So let's attempt that in this one. Let's do something a little bit different for once. Sombre Grey base coat, and then it's Survivor Skin. That's just a black wash by Army Painter. That's a Null Oil in Citadel if you've got that one. And I'll just show you now. Like, to some extent, I feel like you could stop now. It's so much better than the grey plastic. It's really made the details pop out already. If you're brand new to painting and you're very unconfident, I'd go with that. What did that take me? Like 3 minutes, and it's better than the grey plastic. But we are going to carry on. I'm going to show you some highlighting, some very easy, rough highlighting. We're going to use dry brushing for all the highlights. So I've taken Vallejo's Sombre Grey and Vallejo's Wolf Grey, and then mix these about 50-50, and then you rub most of the paint off of the dry brush, and then you just very, very carefully sort of rub and scrape this brush across the model, and it's going to leave that paint on all the raised parts, leaving all the recesses with the wash inside it, and some of the flatter places is going to keep that base somber grey. Then I'm going to mix a little bit more Wolf Grey in with that mixture, making it about 75% Wolf Grey now. Just going to do the same, exactly the same, light strokes, and it's going to build up the brightness in the places that are more raised because I'm doing lighter strokes, and I'm also just focusing it now a bit more in like towards the middle of the wings, his face, the edge of his tail, that sort of thing. And then a final highlight, this is about 10% somber grey now, 90% of that Wolf Grey. This is really, really light. Again, light strokes. I'm going to do it down the sort of center, all the folds that would be, all the coils in his tail that would be more towards the light, and then the edges of his wings and his face, a lot on his face, bring some of the light to that. I'm going to use Pale Flesh, that's Army Painter's Pale Flesh, and that's just to paint on his tongue. So that was like the only colour other than Glistening Blood. This is a shiny, glossy red. I think any red would do, but I just wanted it shiny and glossy like eyeballs, so I'm just painting them 2 glossy Glistening Blood eyeballs. And then after that, we're painting the last detail that I could really see, and just using neat Wolf Grey. This is quite a light whitish grey by Vallejo, and it's just to do his teeth. He's just got sort of 4 fangs, and I'm just going to paint those in and make his face pop out. I think his face stands out quite well. It's the most detailed, interesting part of the model. And then Jumpsuit Shader, that's the red shader by Army Painter, using a small Rosemary & Co brush here, and just carefully adding a little bit of wash down sort of the center of his tongue, just darkening that down, leaving the edges sort of pre-highlighted. Saves me going back and doing them again. After that, I'll just show you how to varnish it, because I guess like it's a bit difficult to spray this model, and I want to stick him to the base, so I may as well just varnish him so I can get that done. I'm using Vallejo's matte varnish. I'm going to apply that everywhere I can, except sort of his eyeballs, and that was it. And then gloss varnish, Vallejo's gloss varnish, I'm going to put a little bit on his eyes, his tongue, make it look a little bit wet, and his teeth, make his teeth and his eyes shiny, and his tongue, that'll just look a little bit wet with that gloss varnish. Final steps, I'm just going to glue these to the base. I don't know what else you're supposed to do. They're just going to fall off all the time otherwise, and I don't want my painted models falling off. So a little bit of super glue on those little pegs, push them into the hole. Just a word of warning, be careful on the back because the glue is going to come out those holes, and if you have your thumb there, you're going to super glue your thumb to the bottom of the base, and it's going to hurt a little bit. You know, I've had worse pains, but it is going to rip your skin off when you pull your thumb off. That's it. That is the Hunting Horror completely finished, 31 minutes. I'll take that. I'm pretty happy with that. You know, we've got a lot of miniatures to paint. These aren't the best miniatures I've ever seen, but a very, very quick paint job, and they're going to look, hopefully you think, because I certainly do, that looks infinitely better than the grey plastic. Also found the artwork on this very, very difficult. I'd like to see what you guys have done if you've painted this model. I've seen a few online that people do all sorts. You can do what you want. When the artwork's that difficult to see, you can do what you want, but hopefully you found this a nice quick example. You can get your models really fast to the table. Thanks for picking the model, Shelley. Nice easy one for me this week. If you're new to the channel, maybe you came here just for this video, please do subscribe. I make videos every single week on a Friday, about 5 PM GMT. Leave me a comment below as well if you'd like to see more Mansions of Madness. There's plenty more to do. Thank you all very much for watching. Talk to you again soon.